Hi, the first class. Okay, we're going to be going through the 1880s through the 1920s, taking a look at some campaigns, some techniques that were used back then. This is not a history of advertising. I'm just uh, cherry picking campaigns that I think might inspire you today. Also, some techniques they used that could still be used today. So let's go. Oh, no music beds. If I picked a music bed, it would be so cheesy. So I give you permission to pick out your own ambient music, put it on in the background. I try to find the most striking and vibrant graphics for this course. Oh, I'm just kidding. They get better. But this is important. On the left is an advertising agency in the late 1800s. That's pretty much all it was. It was just a media planning agency. They bought space in newspapers around the country. Say there were 4,000 newspapers. They bought a bunch of space. Then they sold it back to their clients and placed the ads in all these newspapers, and no one really knew uh, what the effect was. And it's not much different than today with digital media planning, is it? It's the same process, and there's a lot of lying going on about circulation back then and about hits today. So it wasn't much different. The first banner ad, there it is. There's the banner, there's the ad. And here's what advertising became over the next 20 years, thanks to technological advances, distribution advances, bringing in creativity a bit. Uh, Sounds familiar, doesn't it? In the upper right-hand corner, that's Nipper, one of the first great product icons. And in the lower left-hand corner, boy, I could just see this lady holding up an iPhone. Not much has changed. We're going to talk more about Sapolio a little later. This is the anchor slide for the course. I'm always throwing it in because I want to bring everything full circle. Uh, all these concepts have been around for ages. There's nothing new. What's new is the creativity involved, not the techniques. So we're going to be covering some of these in this presentation, some of them in the next class. Back in the early 1900s, a soap company put a little note in their box of soap that said, "Thank you for buying the product. We would love to hear from you. Tell us what you think of our soap. And in return, we will send you a coupon worth 10 cents." Well, 10 cents was a lot of money back then, and a postcard was a penny, so a lot of people did it. And what they received in return was more than one coupon. They also received a note that said, "Thank you for trying our product. And we've sent you one coupon. And we've also included a couple of other coupons for you to give as gifts to your friends. For you to give as gifts from you to your friends." Well, what is that called today? Well, actually, that's what it was called about 10 or 15 years ago. Nowadays, this would be social currency, wouldn't you say? And of course, this is what influencer marketing is. I don't know what's going to happen with influencer marketing, whether it's going to go down the YouTube or not, but there will be other iterations. And if you want to be on top of things, I would study the whole history of citizen marketing, social currency, influencer marketing, and you might just come up with the next iteration. I won't spend long on long copy. Long copy was around in the 1800s in newspapers, a little bit in magazines, but then it really took off in the 1900s with magazines when they started to be published in mass nationally. Uh, I think even today, people spend more time reading long copy if it's there than they let on, especially if they're interested in the product. What's this look like to you? Does it look like an article in a magazine, or could it possibly be Sapolio? Probably the most recognized brand in the United States, between the late 1800s through the early 1900s. These were outdoor advertisements. That's what we would call them today. They were on streetcars, street corners. Let me read one of them. This is the maid of fair renown who scrubs the floors of Spotless Town. To find a speck when she is through would take a pair of specs or two. And her employment isn't slow, for she employs Sapolio. Well, people would read these ads, they'd love them, they'd look for new ones. They would come home and they would try and memorize the poem and repeat it to people. And there was all sorts of collateral marketing that went on. Take a look at it. There were rubber stamps, trading cards. There was even a Broadway musical, books, all sorts of things. Towns and cities would set up uh, spotless town crusades where everyone would pitch in and clean up the town. That's how powerful the advertising was for this product.
Use bounce dryer sheets for static cling?
No. Billy!
Wow, we just jumped 120 years at least. Why? Because I see a connection between those old ads and the new ones, the new 6 to 15-second spots I see on the web and on television. Let's take a look at a few. Okay, 3 different scenarios for the same product Facebook groups. There were probably half a dozen more. 3 different scenarios for the same product, Sapolio, and there were dozens and dozens and dozens more through the years. I could see the Sapolio campaign being lifted and used for another similar product, and with some updating, it could be kind of cute. And here's the most interesting man in the world. No, wait a minute. That's not the most interesting man in the world. There he is. There's the most. No, that's not even the most interesting man in the world. There he is, the most interesting man in the world. Do you think the folks that came up with the most interesting man in the world might have been digging around in the past for inspiration? Okay, the man in the Hathaway shirt. Okay, I want to have some fun, sort of stretch your creative brain here and turn everything upside down, inside out. What if you were told that you had to turn this into a 6-second spot? What would you do? Now, I know this is a rather staid example. The first few will be, because as I said, I want to stretch your brains a bit. But what would you do with this to turn it into a 6-second spot? And how about these? Look at each one. What could you do if these were modern advertisements and they were 6-second videos? Schweppes and Commander Whitehead. What if these had to be 6-second videos? Take a look. I see some bubbles, some snow. Look in the lower right-hand corner. What I might do is have these feet come in just at the end of the 6-second spot. 1 6-second spot. What would you do? And, now Now we can start moving. Now we can start using animated GIFs and CGI. Oh, look at that. That's from the late 40s. It's a house ad. Uh, Turn that into a 6-second spot. Turn that into a 6-second spot. Here are my main points. The history of print advertising pretty much is the history of advertising. Certainly up until the 1960s or the 1970s, when television commercials became very creative. So today, when I see these 6-second spots and these 15-second spots on the web, on television, they make me think of print ads, because print ads were 6-second spots. If you were rifling through a magazine and you stopped at an ad and looked at it, you had about 6 seconds. Sometimes there were long copy ads where you would spend more time reading them, but these creative folks knew how to tell a story in 6 seconds. And if you want to be inspired or get ideas about how to do a 6-second spot, go back to the history of print advertising. Take a look at these two campaigns. The first one is probably the great-great-grandchild, and the second one is the great-great-great-great-grandchild of you know what. Two excellent contemporary print ads. Turn each one into a 6-second spot. I'm not really obsessed with these 6-second ads. I like them a lot, but I want you to look through the history of advertising, especially print advertising, with new eyes. And I think the way to do that is to think of them as 6-second ads. It might help you with your creativity. Next up, World War I and the Sears catalog.